You're listening to Level Up with Wondr, a podcast where we take listeners on a journey through the exciting world of gaming, tech, and innovation. Join the Wondr Nation team as we talk with a diverse group of pros who have taken their skills to the next level.
Hello, I'm Deani Marvel, Vice President of Marketing Strategy and Operations at Wondr Nation. Welcome to another episode of Level Up with Wondr. This episode is being recorded in the month of March, which is Problem Gambling Awareness Month. In observation, we are speaking with a passionate, responsible gaming advocate, Ivory Kelly. Ivory is a nationally recognized leader in tribal gaming regulation and responsible gaming advocacy. As the founder and CEO of the Tribal Council for Responsible Gaming, she has spearheaded initiatives that promote player protection, cultural engagement, and regulatory innovation across Indian country. Ivory was honored as Regulator of the Year by the Indian Gaming Association in 2025, reflecting her commitment to advancing compliance standards and ethical practices in gaming. With extensive experience in developing tribal internal control standards, implementing tribal-wide self-exclusion programs, and integrating technology-driven solutions for responsible gaming, Ivory brings a unique perspective that blends operational strategy with cultural values. Welcome to Level Up with Wondr, Ivory. We are so happy to have you.
Hi, Deani. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's start with talking a little bit about your background before we get into all of the amazing insights that you have for responsible gaming. So tell us about your background and your path to where you are today.
Yeah, I actually started working in tribal gaming for the Ho-Chunk Nation back in 1999. So I've been in this industry quite some time. I started out as a beverage server and worked my way up working through different tribes from Ho-Chunk to Shakopee and lastly Oneida, but varying my skill set within the different departments. I found myself in executive assistance positions with Oneida and worked my way onto the regulatory side with the Oneida Gaming Commission. And I think that's where I really found my passion in tribal gaming, really started to dig into the regulation, something that most people don't enjoy, but I love it. I can't explain why. It's one of those things I love reading all the regs, policies, implementation, helping tribes reset and clean things up as well.
I'm going to say that your love for regulatory is very unique in terms of loving to go through those regs. I think that's a unique love there. So let's talk about the Tribal Council for Responsible Gaming. Why did you find the TCRG and what sparked that?
Starting with the TCRG, it wasn't something that I had planned on doing. I started here in Wisconsin to work and implement a statewide self-exclusion program with all the tribes on board. When I met with my tech partner now, Jonathan, he convinced me to try to roll it out tribal-wide. And in doing that, I felt there has to be something of more substance behind that. It can't just be a self-exclusion piece. The more I started to learn about responsible gaming, I felt that there was a need for an organization that was just for us, just for tribal gaming, where we could build out programs that are effective and that tribes can utilize to better determine what type of RG measures will work for their properties. And so that is how the Tribal Council for Responsible Gaming came to be. Like, how can I fill this gap to educate, bring awareness, and in a sense, grow more resources for this segment of the population that needs help? We're more ready to push out initiatives and the things that we're working on aside from the tribal-wide self-exclusion programs. Another initiative that we're excited about is our Pause initiative, and that is something that we're going to be working to partner with operations on. It is just like a check-in on the gaming floor to take a moment to pause, assess where they're at, assess how they're feeling, look at how they're spending, give them a reminder. So we're excited to be looking to roll that campaign out here towards the end of the month. And then another real exciting initiative that we're building out is our youth program, Keepers of the Path. It brings in different aspects of our cultures and the way that we built it out in pillars. All exciting, all something that's not being done right now. And can't wait for it to start hitting the gaming floors and start hitting our communities.
Yes, those are all very exciting initiatives. So let's go into a little bit more detail. So let's start with the self-exclusion. Can you talk a little bit about why this tribal-wide or cross-tribal nation self-exclusion is a priority and what the benefits are of that approach?
Yeah, so I think that the tribal-wide self-exclusion is an infrastructure that tribes have always needed,
Mhm.
but with the right partner. So self-exclusion does work. It's a power tool, but it has to be done right. And I think the right way to do it is to do it collectively, to collaborate with one another. So with the tribal-wide self-exclusion program, when a patron self-excludes or has a request come in, either at a participating property or within our web app, they're able to self-exclude from multiple operators who are on the platform. And this way, it eases the stress of the patron having to go from operator to operator or cross jurisdiction in order to become self-excluded. And this also is a shared network with the tribes.
Mm.
So when we look at how we build out RG, and that's what's really unique about TCRG is that
Mhm.
we're building it in real time with tribes as they come on board with us. We wanted to make the process as simple as possible. Keep doing what you're doing, but utilize this platform to simplify it for the patron. That's the premise behind the whole self-exclusion piece, is to try to create a tool that makes it simpler for those who want to come in and self-exclude from multiple properties at one time.
And if other tribes want to join this initiative, how would they do that?
They can do that just by reaching out to myself. You can contact me on LinkedIn. Otherwise, we do have our website, the tribalcouncilrg.org, to get a hold of me, and we'll contact you. Otherwise, we are in the process of going down the list of all tribes in gaming and cold calling them. And we've been having some success for that. We're having active discussions, I would say, with about 20 different tribes looking at how to onboard them. And that's another great thing is that, like, while we don't have all the tribes in Wisconsin on board yet, we do have pockets in different regions that are looking to come on board. And I think that's a strength in it because it shows us what problem gamblers are looking for.
That's just very exciting. And a lot of casinos, when the person self-excludes, that may lie with security. Can you talk a little bit about your perspective on that kind of reality and maybe what may be a different or more productive approach?
Yeah, so security does head up the majority of self-exclusion programs in most operations right now. There is a need for that because security kind of acts as that enforcement piece. But what we would like to see is more self-exclusion ambassadors type people within the gaming floor so that they get more of a warm reception when they want to self-exclude. There's a lot of guilt and shame that a lot of problem gamblers carry with them. And we think that a softer approach is more feasible. They'll more likely seek the help from someone that they can casually just approach and have a conversation with. Someone who can send them away with resources, not just hand them a pamphlet. Someone that can better help them understand where they're at with their problem gambling and help them go through the self-exclusion process. And not that our security officers can't be trained to do that piece, but there's a better use for them within our gaming floor than helping a patron come to that self-exclusion and get enrolled. And for those that want to take part in building something greater when it comes to RG and their gaming operations, that's where we build up those ambassadors and those people that are there to talk with patrons and engage with them in a way that makes them feel we're just here to help you.
Absolutely. I agree. I think it's very important for the person to feel like it's about help and support. And
Yes.
security in and of itself feels maybe there's controlling there or it's policing. It's something that is not always the most positive. Some people don't like to talk to anybody they feel like is a law enforcement in that role. So I definitely feel like that could be very useful and beneficial.
Previously, when I was talking to a few of my board members, I see it like security owns the enforcement piece, clearly. But then if we have responsible gaming compliance, you own the patron relationship. So you're like in that human moment with them. But then leadership also has to set that culture where
Absolutely.
you are treating self-exclusion as a genuine commitment to the community. It's no longer just a liability checkbox, but community well-being.
Absolutely. All right, so let's shift a little bit to talking about youth. What are some best practices for addressing youth when it comes to responsible gaming?
Yes. So with the explosion of mobile gaming, there's an explosion of youth addiction. Protection shouldn't start at 21. It should build out to where it's happening at. And that's typically starting around age 12. Really becomes part of the whole community and the family if you have someone under the age of 21 that needs that type of help. And so for us, a formal youth gambling initiative that we're building out is that Keepers of the Path. I'll share a little bit about what that kind of looks like. So what we're looking at is kind of building out these pillars for the youth, where we're going to do educational training pieces with them. And we want to do that through schools, through community, through family, especially for tribal youth. It's such a big part of who they are in many of our communities. And so we want to be sure that we hear what they're saying to us when it comes to problem gambling. And a lot of them have shared their stories, not just with them gambling, but with their parents or their grandparents gambling. We want to be sure that we build out that community education piece. Want to branch it off of what we're doing with the tribal-wide self-exclusion and really have a conversation with families, getting them involved to help them exclude their kids from different platforms. We're fighting against so many markets out here that are coming online that have zero protections while we're trying to build all these good things for our youth, helping them make better choices or have a better understanding of what gambling is. We also have this other side where every day you're just going against the grain and trying to figure out how to navigate that system.
The youth concern is definitely one that is a high priority for me because, like you say, with this explosion of online gaming, that education is important for them. Also, parents. I know some teenagers who get access because their parents allow them to have access through their accounts. And so just some education throughout the communities on the potential harm and dangers. I'd like to switch a little bit into leveraging culture, especially for tribal communities. There is this unique opportunity for tribal communities to lean into culture to help with education or connection or support and resources. So what is your perspective on that, your experience, some examples that you can share?
Yeah, so for responsible gaming, culture is not a decoration that we're adding to it. It's in the framework of everything that we're building.
Yeah.
And it shows that going this route, the program actually works. So that's one of the things that TCRG is building with tribal nations together. And like I said, us doing it organically, because even though we share a lot of the same values and aspects of culture from tribe to tribe, we all still have very unique things about us. And that's why it takes time to build out these segues, is because we do go tribe by tribe to get to know them and understand what's most important to them, what they want to highlight, how they can apply their culture to an RG program. There's messengers who are trusted in our community. So if we can get the education and training pieces to those messengers as they build that out, that also helps us further enhance our RG efforts. Just like the Pause campaign that's really built within our tribal community and the elements that we're using to bring that forward. We'll be coming out with bracelets for our operators and for those within tribal gaming to kind of take a moment. You have something to touch. And that's important for us. We want to keep ourselves grounded. You always want to do everything with good intent. Have your fun, have your excitement, but remember that there's something greater that you're a part of.
Well, I can't wait to see how that rolls out and to see what your final product is. Let's talk a little bit about technology. I know in your background, we talked about how passionate you are about using technology for responsible gaming. So if you can just share with our listeners some best practices and advice in that area.
So technology is a great thing, but it's only as good as the intent behind it. There's so much growth in the industry using technology, but a lot of it doesn't have the greatest intent behind it. When we were looking for a technology partner and building this platform and whatnot for us, we wanted to partner with someone that has the same grounded values that we do. One of the things that we're looking to, even with our self-exclusion platform, is build out a tribal identification database. And I think that will be a great database for tribes here in the future to apply to other programs. For self-exclusion and the way that we apply technology, there's spatial recognition, automatically can connect back to the platform and kind of alerts that this patron shouldn't be here, they're self-excluded, or even if it's a patron who is on a forced ban from your operation. So those are great ways to utilize technology, especially to support these RG programs. And then we can also look at player account analytics, filter that through our gaming floor and try to identify someone who is on the verge of becoming a problem gambler through their play, through their speed velocity, the frequency that they come to your operation, and how we utilize that data. I don't think a lot of us are there yet on how we filter that into our gaming operations, but I'm excited for that piece to also be coming through. And if that's something that TCRG can help bring to the forefront of tribal gaming, like we're definitely going to work towards that. Those are the great things about technology and how we can utilize it. We can lift the burden off of people coming in and having to do it manually, or having tribes have to sit there and funnel through paperwork and enter it into their systems later on.
Absolutely. And often when we are in gaming, when we talk about technology, it's about the evolution of the product or maybe even evolution of marketing. But RG is definitely an area, as you identified, that can also leverage technology to make us be better. And I applaud you for taking on areas that have never been done before and being a leader and setting that groundwork for us all. So my question is, what does leveling up in responsible gaming look like? And what are 3 ways that either tribal gaming operators or just any type of operator can level up their approach to responsible gaming?
Okay, so for me, thinking about this question was that the best class of responsible gaming is not a compliance exercise. It's a commitment to community well-being and taking care of your community. You got to tackle your leadership visibility, your C-suite. You got to have them talking about it all the time, publicly and consistently. And make sure that it's not something that's delegated. When RG is woven through everything, it makes it more effective. And that's everything from marketing decisions to floor designs, new game adoption, your technology procurement. It's not a department that gets consulted afterwards. They should always be in the mix of what you're building, what you're marketing. And then it's data driven. We have multiple organizations that try to analyze the market and see who's all impacted by problem gambling. This is the first time where, as we build things out, we will have solid tribal data for us to show us what is driving our properties and how we can better build our G resources. And then community connection. And that's where I say we strive as tribal nations. We have a big community connection, real relationships with local problem gambling treatment providers and staff who know how to make that warm referral, because everybody on our gaming floor, we become very familiar with them. So it's not just handing someone a card. It's really getting to know them. You got to keep investing in RG. That includes investing in your training and education for your employees. Even if it comes down to certifications, make sure that everybody knows how to talk and have those conversations with your problem gambler. And the number one thing I want to say, because this is really nuanced within our conversation, is that stop treating responsible gaming and revenue as competing priorities. They're not competing against one another. They're not. They're both able to exist within the same space. You're still able to really drive revenue while having an amazing responsible gaming program or self-exclusion program on your property. And so I want to make that clear for all of us, is that long-term sustainability in tribal gaming is inseparable from the well-being of the communities that we serve. Responsible gaming is a long-term investment. It's just as long-term the same way as your whole entire enterprise. You're constantly investing into it, constantly investing into your enterprise. They go hand in hand.
Thank you so much, Ivory. This was a fantastic discussion. about how we can all level up our approach to responsible gaming. Thank you so much for sharing your insight and for joining us today. It was quite a pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to Level Up with Wondr. Visit wondernation.com/level up for more podcast episodes about how we're reimagining the gaming entertainment industry. Want to level up your business? Visit our contact page at wondernation.com to inquire about our strategic consulting or management services.